Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now, last week I was having a quick discussion with my friend. I was catching up with him, and he is a governance risk and compliance analyst. He's been in GRC for many years, and he was doing like a review of a new tech startup here in Europe. And what happened was he found out that this company had no documentation, no like compliance checklist, no risk register, and not because this company was not like risk savvy and they were not aware of like the issues that might be present. No, everything was like codified within GitLab. They had like a repo called compliance as code. Everything was automated through build pipelines, and even the risk register, they had basically moved it to GenAI. They had put a GenAI wrapper application on top of that, and he had to interact with it. And this really shook him. It showed him. He was talking to me. He was telling me how much compliance has evolved now and how much it's evolving. It's moving away from Excel based spreadsheets and static checks to this real time automated AI aware type of field. And he felt that he really needed to evolve, and I helped him out and I gave him as much advice as I could. And that's where the idea for this video also came along, that how GRC is evolving, how it's no longer this static field, this periodic checklist based audits, they are going away and being replaced by this real time AI literate type of field. And why, if you are in GRC, what you need to do, what are the things that you should also be aware of, and how you can basically future proof yourself within this field. So this is the topic of today's video, and I hope you find it useful. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe to this channel. My name is Taimur Lal. I am a senior security consultant with AWS, and I made this channel to give advice on cloud security, AI, and cybersecurity careers. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, if you're not familiar with GRC, or if you're starting out in GRC, then I would recommend checking out my earlier video on this. Basically, where I talk about the GRC field, how to start a career in it, because this video is more about how the field is changing. If you're trying to get into GRC, I would recommend watching this video. I'll put it in the comment section first. Okay, so what am I talking about? I'm saying how the governance, risk, and compliance field must evolve in the age of agentic AI and generative AI. If you're in this field, what are the changes that are happening, that are going to happen also in the next 3 to 4 years, and how you should like evolve and how you should ready yourself for this field. So let's take a look. Technically, traditionally, how GRC has worked. You used to gain experience in standards and frameworks like PCI DSS, ISO 27001, NIST, and you had like Excel-based spreadsheets, risk registers. It was periodic, right? You were not doing it continuously. It was usually a function separate from technology, which is correct because of the independence thing. And usually there are exceptions, but traditionally GRC people, they don't have that much knowledge of coding and engineering, because this is a field which actually likes people who are not that technical, who are more risk focused. So traditionally speaking, you didn't have that much knowledge around coding and engineering, and this is how basically GRC is built. And the frameworks that are there in GRC, they are built for systems that are programmed properly, predictable, and they are governed by access controls and logs. There are security checks that you can do to find out how it's going, right? And but what is happening now, how environments are changing, more and more companies are moving towards GenAI based applications, agentic AI, where you need to know about prompt engineering, because there might be a time where you're not talking to a person, you're actually querying a generative AI application or an AI agent. So you need to know how to ask the questions. This is also vibe coding is happening, where everybody is now able to build applications that can query data sources, and you need to know how to, like, what are the unique risks of these type of applications. And of course, agentic AI, where AI is taking actions by itself and it is non-deterministic, which means that its behavior is not predictable. It's not like a binary 1 or 0, right? Every time it might give a slightly different answer. And cloud environments as a default, more and more companies, because of the AI push, they are moving towards cloud as a default. Why? Because it's the amount of processing power and storage that you need for AI. It's not present typically on prem, or it is present on prem, but with a massive cost tag. So this is how environments are changing, how trends are changing. And if you want to get a really like understanding, this is how you might be thinking about how you're going to be dealing with applications going forward. You might have by default an AI agent running. Instead of talking to a person, you might be talking to an AI agent to understand how the system is structured. You might have a prompt and this goes to an agent. It talks to a model, it executes a tool, maybe it queries some data store and Excel, and it gives you a result. So this is how things are going to be working. If you're thinking I'm going to be interviewing a person, taking an Excel sheet, yes or no, and then I'll give them an audit report. This is how very much the way the future is going. The agentic loop, which is it's called. This is how companies are going to be moving more and more towards where AI agents will be present. And so you might be having to interact with this form of agentic entity in the future. So what is the new way of doing GRC in the age of agentic AI and Gen AI? So both of these systems, they generate content. Agentic AI takes action and interacts with the data and in a way that you might not understand. So this means that you have to face completely new types of risk that cannot be managed with the legacy approaches. I was talking to my friend and I told him, well, how are you prepping for this AI like type of thing which is coming, Gen AI, agentic AI? He's saying, yeah, I've looked at the new standards that are coming out, the NIST AI risk management framework and ISO 42001 or the EU AI Act. And what struck me was he's still focused on the old type of doing thing, which is I'll just look at the new standard, I'll do a new certification when it come out, and that will be enough. And I was trying to make him understand that's not enough. You can't just keep approaching these things in the old way. You need to be basically AI literate. So what am I talking about here? You need to know how things like prompt injections, LLMs can be misused, autonomous agent behavior, how they can be like modified. Simply like memorizing standards or looking at checklists is not enough, right? And modern GRC systems, they don't wait. It's not like you'll find a finding like you used to do before. Now more and more companies are moving towards real-time behavior. And this is very much because they cannot afford to wait for something to be detected during audit. You need to understand how these real-time systems work. Compliance as code. Companies are codifying their compliance controls within the code. They don't have time to be building the massive 50-page documents, right? Are you able to look at a GitLab pipeline or some other check and understand what are the codes that are there? Maybe you can run some prompts to understand, within those new IDEs like you have like Cursor or Amazon Q or Kiro. Do you know how to do those sort of queries and understand what are the compliance checks that are there? Can you actually codify your compliance requirements into code and give it to the development team so they can do it? And self-healing architectures. Again, like I said, more and more companies are moving towards these sort of companies which automatically remediate. They don't wait around for the auditor to come, they'll fix themselves. So how are you able to look at these controls and understand whether they are enough or not? So for really being successful, this is what I was telling him, that these are the things you really will need to focus on and get hands on with it. So modern GRC is not about catching like issues after they have happened, right? It's about building controls, being preventative. So you really need to understand that the guy who used to memorize, ISO controls or PCI DSS, and I used to be this person, so don't get mad at me. I am very much this person that I used to be a few years back. But these are things you must understand. Prompt engineering. You must understand how prompts work and why, because if you don't understand how these work, you won't understand how the risks happen, like prompt injection, data leakage, or model misuse. And it's very possible you might be getting your answers from agentic AI in the future instead of talking to an employee. Wipe coding. Do you know what wipe coding is? Can you use wipe coding to develop a simple compliance system? You must understand how the coding workflows that are there, they'll be in wipe coding, right? The compliance checks. So you need to understand how they work. Agentic behavior monitoring. Like I said, AI agents might be doing a lot of the ground level work when it comes to security controls. Are you able to monitor their behavior and how their behavior can deviate from the baseline? How will you do that if you do not understand how they work? The life cycle governance, how AI agents are being moved to production, what sort of controls do you have? A model risk management, how the data pipeline is working, which are training these models. And of course, secure AI architecture, if you are building systems, can you give your inputs there proactively? So to sum it up, what I really want to say that the checklist type of auditor is going to go away very much. So if your skill set is doing checklist audits I very much, I can not stress upon you enough that this field is going to change very much and you need to keep yourself updated. The AI aware compliance engineer is now very much a part of the future, right? So you need to understand how to embed controls into pipelines, how to enforce this compliance checks and gain that confidence. So you must be code and prompt fluent. You don't need to be a hardcore coder, but at least be able to understand code or use AI to understand this code. You must be AI literate. You must, it cannot be just that I know this, I've memorized this framework or this standard, and you must be automation obsessed. Understand how to improve these controls. Companies, the pace at which the industry is evolving, they do not have time for people who come in and do this checklist and give a report 2 months back. You will not be adding value to your company. And if you're automation obsessed and you think about how can I put these compliance checks within the code itself, how can I codify it? How can I automate it as much as possible? Because of vibe coding, you don't even need to know coding that much. You can actually use vibe coding to generate your own governance and risk and compliance systems, which can help companies enforce these controls proactively. So this is pretty much it. This is what I wanted to talk about, that how the GRC industry is changing and how I really feel it's going to be in the coming years. I hope this helped you out. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any comments. I'll put the link to my first video in the description below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.